But anyway, so
We're jumping.
So
Oh yeah, I want to get the sense of something.
Yeah.
After your mother died, you had to get your bearings. It seems to me that you had to. You really had one parent. You were older already, and you were on your way.
I was married.
You were married, right? But it seemed that you had this one parent that was really in your corner. That was all of a sudden gone. And I'm wondering how you adjusted and what you had to do to just get yourself back on track.
Well, getting back, digressing a little bit, for my sister, which was rough for her, being my mother died, and her husband being away, and not being supportive of her. He was away in Europe and who knows what, with the fighting and who knows.
This is.
But when my mother died, World War II.
Yes.
But when my mother died, the war was over already, because it had ended in April, and she died in June. But the whole turmoil at the time, and also her husband Marty's father was very ill and dying, so it was like a crazy time.
Florida.
Yeah, he was a veteran of World War I.
So they had to put him in warm weather.
They put him in alcohol. He had Parkinson's. So it was like a crazy, crazy time. And also, Marty, her husband, grew up without a mother. But there was an aunt who helped raise him, and a grandmother. It was like an in and out. It was a, very, very peculiar, crazy times
Marty
at the
had
time.
a very tough life.
Yeah. So then he comes home from service, comes home to find his father.
We didn't tell him anything.
And his mother-in-law. It was like a crazy time. Of course, then he moved it back into the house, because that's where they were living before. So it was a tough time for everybody. My father, who was without a wife, now
he was a young man.
And a daughter who was really taking care of him. Now her husband comes home and has got to take care of her husband. So it was a tough time. And I think he decided to get married only because it was probably the best thing for him. Not that he...
Was Paula ever married?
Paula. Not that because he cared for this person.
There are so many stories
just
out there. That whole story is a story.
You don't think he loved Paula?
I don't know. I don't know if he knew really what love was. He's a different kind of man. He was a kind of man who, again, lived a very simple life. If somebody could make his meals, he didn't need anybody. His love was to eat and go out, go for a walk. He could go out and walk the whole day. If the weather was nice, he could swim the whole day. He was a powerful swimmer. He loved being outdoors. He could stand leaning against a building all day and talk to his friends.
Or not talk at all.
Yeah, or be by himself. When a bell used to ring, wherever it was, it's, he's got to go upstairs and have a cup of coffee. This was in the afternoon. This is when he was retired, of course, already. This is the way he lived. A very simple life. Now, he had the same breakfast his whole life. 2 soft-boiled eggs every morning of his life.
Really?
Even after they said, it's not good for cholesterol. He had his 2 eggs. And when he was in a home already, many years later, he was in a home, you'd say to him, what'd you have for breakfast? He wouldn't remember. But he had the same breakfast every morning. I did it actually to test and to see. But he could tell you the name of his friend in 1906, which is the way...
Because it's burned into the memory.
Right.
But here's something else that I remember. He used to have a drink of schnapps. No, I'm sorry. Was it schnapps?
Bronfen. He called it Bronfen. The word for liquor in Yiddish is Bronfen. So...
Spell that?
B-R-O-N, Bronfen. In fact, F-M-A-N. In fact,
that's what I'm wondering.
The man who owned Shenley, their name is Bronfen. That wasn't their original name, but they went into the liquor business and they took that name. That's the truth. Edgar Bronfen, who was a philanthropist, who owned the Montreal Expos, right? At one time.
I think so.
Yeah, they're very, very super. They own Shenley's. Yeah. Anyway, that was when he came home. before dinner he'd have a shot of booze.
I have a feeling that he might have been onto something.
That's very good for you. It was good for him.
It thins the blood, right?
Oh, sure. Thins the blood.
No, it does
It's an
not thin the
appetizer.
blood.
It was
They asked the nurse. It does not thin the blood. It just happens to be good for the heart.
It's good.
Oh, that's what it is.
It's good for
Not
the heart.
thin the blood.
It's
It's good for the heart.
It gives the heart a little.
And did he have any diabetes at all or anything
No.
like that? No.
He had
He had
nothing.
Nothing wrong with him.
No.
Nothing.
What killed him was a doctor. Well, of course, he had glaucoma, and of course, he had to be on medication for the glaucoma, and it slowly deteriorated his eyesight. But this one doctor gave him a medication called Diamox. I remember, like I'll never. It's like tattooed in my mind. Without monitoring his blood, which you're supposed to. When I picked him up, I brought him to the hospital because they thought he had leukemia. He had fainted. They took a blood test and found very low red cells. The doctor at the hospital, the hematologist, head of hematology, said, "Where's any reports about he's on Diamox?" No. When did they monitor his blood? I said they never did. What? He got incensed. He couldn't believe it. What kind of ophthalmologist wouldn't order that? And this guy never did. So he got.
Sounds like bad doctors.
He got aplastic anemia, which actually kills the bone marrow that produces the red cells. So this doctor buried him.
Half a century apart, a couple of doctors helped bury your parents.
Oh yeah. Oh, this doctor buried my mother. Oh, absolutely. And buried my father. Another doctor buried
Because
me.
the doctor that did discover that she had, cancer of the rectum, if they had taken her to him earlier, at that time it would have been fine. I took him 2 weeks or so after my mother died. I opened up the bathroom. I was pregnant, and he has.
Oh, you were pregnant when your mother died?
No.
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 Came home, and we decided to have a baby.
Okay, I got you.
So the bathroom habits are peculiar in this family. They could stay in the bathroom, I don't have to tell you. And here you're pregnant, you have to go to the bathroom all the time. So he's in the bathroom, I keep saying, I have to go. And I forced the door open, and there was a pool of blood. And I said, what? I said, what is that? No, nothing, He thought maybe he was doing something wrong, and that's why I said he was like alone, and yet he was together.
What was wrong?
He had bleeding polyps, but he was hiding it. Here my mother died. So I said to him, how long has this been going on?
This was a couple of years later.
Wow, you were like 18 years old.
Yeah.
No, 17, something like that.
Wow.
Okay. So I said to him, this is no good, and we quickly called the doctor that discovered that he had my mother had the cancer.
Dr. Price.
And took him, because this Price, when they took my mother to this Price said immediately, you mean to tell me this woman has not been examined within a year? Is it possible? So the doctor killed her. So when I took him, I didn't know where else to go, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And they examined him. He examined him. He said immediately he has to be cleaned out and come back. He's got polyps. And he brought me in the office to show me. They put it like on a scope. He was head down and showed me the polyps. And they took out, 2, 3. And I remember him the doctor turning to him. He says, you see her? He said, you'll be grateful to her the rest of your life.
Wow.
Because the neglected polyps turned to cancer.
Have you had them since?
Oh, yeah. Polyps?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm
But
glad
he
I
has
know.
them always taken care of. That's why
I check.
I'm on my daughters to just be checked.
But polyps run in the family because my father had polyps in the nose and the vocal cords.
Right.
That's why you sound like that?
And I have
I hope
polyps
so.
on
I
the
keep
vocal cords.
yelling at him.
This is allergies.
let me ask you something about. Let's go to you, 17 or 18 years old. I remember you went into NYU.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kids didn't go to college in those days.
I was very young.
You went to college with the, if I remember, the goal of being a doctor.
I would have liked him, you know. I was pre-med, and it was too tough for me, only because the when I did go, it was a lot of returning service, which were much older than me. I felt like dwarfed in a man's world, like a child in a man's world, because most everybody was on GI Bill. It's very tough for me, and my father, uneducated. You know, you can make excuses why I didn't go in for, you know, to continue to be a doctor or whatever. I think I could have been, but didn't work out. And then Korean War, I went into the service. I don't know. I just went a different direction.
All right. So how long did you go to NYU for?
Went a couple of years, and then I did some at nighttime too. Took some courses at night. I could have. Yeah, it was like almost 2 years, and I could have. I took some courses at night as well. But I don't know. Never continued.
So what was your first real job?
I worked in the not the garment center, piece goods business. Where I worked for a guy who was a converter. He would take piece goods and convert it into different fabrics. You know. And I did that for a while. And then when I went into the service, I did very well. I was a salesman. And when I came out of the service, I went to a drapery house. I couldn't go back to the old place I was in. It just, I did, and I didn't like it. They had gone in a different direction. And they had gotten very big in the 2 years that I was away. So I was like a low man on a totem pole, where I was at one time in the same company, one of the top salesmen, and I started all over again. It just was a very difficult time for me. When you come out of service, it's really a very difficult time, because you, I don't know, you know, the old story is, oh, the world owes me, now the United States owes me something because I was in the service, which is baloney. I never felt that, but it was the transition to become a civilian again, and I was married, because I got married when I was in the service. It was I make money right away, and things were hard. So that I went into a drapery company, and they I didn't like that. And then my father-in-law at the time was in the beer business.
Hold on one second, Ron wants to ask you something. What? This is going great. I love this.
You like this?
Ah, this is the best. This is the best.
Well, you actually want to know then what my life was like leading up to your lives?
Well, we can do that some other time. You know, maybe you and I. Because I'm getting Mom's solo. I'm getting you solo. Because I figure I want to. Well, you guys can relate. Let's.
Well, you pretty much got us.
Is there anything that you think that I haven't mentioned that you want to either say that there was a major event, get something off your chest, get something,
no,
you know?
Well, I can give you some insight. That again backwards.
Go back to any era.
Okay, well, Marty had come out of service.
Right.
Marty was my sister's husband, and the four of us were in a house, and then my father decides to get married to Paula, and she moves in as well, and it was a very, very tight quarters.
Terrible.
Because they were two people in one room, my Paula in another room, and I slept in a living room, which wasn't unusual for me. Because that's where I slept. That's where I lived.
That's all right, but I had.
But then the baby gets born. So now.
I had her before
Before they got married.
Certainly.
I don't remember, but it wasn't that much of a difference.
Talk about Shelley being born.
Shelley was born.
Okay.
So now there are three people in one bedroom, which is very small. My father and Paula, right, in another bedroom, and I slept in a living room.
What's the address, by the way? Where you living?
2219 Mermaid Avenue. I'll never forget it.
Did you know of the frictions? We did not cook together.
Well, there were frictions.
And
so it
she
wasn't good.
It was terrible.
It wasn't good because she was making dinner for her husband, and she was going to make dinner for her husband. And it was a kosher home. Marty did not grow up that type of cooking. He would have preferred non-kosher meals, but it couldn't be because it was in a kosher home. You can't do that. So it was tough times, and then they would have liked a bit on their own, if I remember. But hey, where are they going to get housing? The war was just over, and they were building. And finally, they moved to Quonset huts. Quonset huts were like quarters where servicemen lived. So what they did was they moved these Quonset to make temporary quarters for servicemen who had no place to live and their families. And I tell you, that was the greatest. To me, it was the greatest. Maybe it wasn't so great for them because in the wintertime, it was cold. I remember. But they had block parties because everybody was in the same
But one thing
situation.
about us,
Yeah.
they never allowed anything to go between us. I wasn't
no, there
in
was no-
favor of the divorce, but it was their life. I tried, I ran. They
Oh,
were
you mean
like,
my divorce?
Your divorce,
Oh,
yes.
no. That
with
was
the
the.
kids.
No,
But
we're talking
it
about.
happened. I remember taking Robin when I lived in on Avenue W, so the two of you could go away for a weekend. I didn't sleep all night watching her in the carriage. Try to be like what a mother would be.
Well, that's yeah.
But I mean, that's water under the bridge, naturally.
Yeah,
But,
but that was about it with my father.
Right.
And then, of course, I lived with my father. And,
The fights I had,
yeah, they had fights. But
because
It wasn't-
she didn't want to really take care of him. And he was,
I don't remember that.
see, the apple of my, why? You came in, I said, what'd you have for dinner? I couldn't eat it. It was like a rock. So I'd call her and say to her, hey, now listen, you. I had no respect for her whatsoever. I don't be on all the film in the United States because she didn't command respect. She didn't earn it. And I said to her, you wait for my father to open up a door before you put a stake in. Why do you put a stake in? And sure, he walks in 8 o'clock. What do you think, I am a maid? And I once said to her, well, what else do you think you are? Ho, 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 and a bottle of rum. I said, don't you do that to him. I said, tell him you don't want to. He'll call you and tell you he's late. Nobody, my father could walk in 10 o'clock at night. You'll first put the light on then. You don't do those things. Because he was complaining, so I said to him, come live here, don't. I couldn't stand it. I wiped her away. It didn't matter. She could wipe away like Hitler wiped away a nation. She was Eva Braun, could wipe away a second nation.
Oh, really?
I know.
I remember being a sweet old lady. That's all.
I don't remember
I was
any of this. I only remember her being good to me. I don't remember this.
You don't remember the meals?
No.
You don't
I remember I had
not
plenty
being
of-
able to eat?
I had plenty to eat. I
Well,
don't
maybe I
remember.
straightened her out.
I have
Then
no
she
idea.
gave you plenty to eat.
It's
It
amazing.
wasn't the question. She was.
You know, I don't know whether it is something with my personality. I remember mostly everything good. I don't remember bad things. I don't remember any bad times. I don't remember bad times when I was in the service. I don't remember. I remember.
Why would you have bad times? There was no war. So
Well,
answer that one.
There was a thing called the Korean War. I didn't go to Korea.
So what?
But I was always
But
worried
Long
about
Island
going.
was a tough place.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, the traffic going through.
You would have a lot to say if you were in
Yeah.
Vietnam and
Well,
things
yeah.
like
Well,
that.
did Marty
you
see any
think-
action?
Of course he
Yes.
did.
He thought that he was in
But
Dallas.
that was
He
nothing.
was in the Battle of the Bulge.
I didn't know that.
That was nothing. You know what the traffic was on the Long Island Expressway? That was traffic.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes,
I
Marty
didn't-
was in the
Sure.
Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah. His cousin got killed in the Battle of the Bulge. Like we have a neighbor here, Marvin Myers, and he was wounded like 2 or 3 times. He's got 2 medals. When you talk to him, he remembers funny things. This great thing, and this great guy. Some people
Marty
pick out.
told stories that were hilarious.
You know, I don't.
But you block out the bad stuff.
Well, that's what the mind will tell. It's just like.
Well,
the,
then
the
you never
mind,
have a second baby.
Right, the mind blocks out pain. I was saying
Right.
the same thing.
So,
Right.
Is that your phone?
no.
Good. But that's basically our father. And then, of course, they lived their own life.
Right.
We'd go to visit them. She was pleasant. I don't know. She was always
I
pleasant. to us.
visited him
You-
every single
Did
weekend.
you ever reconcile with Paula? No, so it was always.
No. When we were there,
Cordial?
you
He was
know,
cordial?
And then she fell down. She always sued the city for something or other.
Right.
And we never saw any of that money. In fact, the last check she got was $35,000. And she never told my father. But one of the guys said to my father, "Wow, what a check. I never saw such a check in my life." And my father said to him, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Your wife. What is this? You don't know? She has a check for $35,000. That's the kind of life they led. It was disgusting." And he said to her, "Why didn't you show me?" She said, "Well, no one in certain terms on video wouldn't live to see a penny of that money." She was
What'd she do with the money?
Her family must have gotten all this kind of money. I don't know.
Right. Now, she never had children.
No,
Did she?
she had
But she had
nieces
close-
and nephews.
They were close.
They stuck around till they got the money. He said, "Oh God, they
Sounds
were
like
good
you-
to her."
Sounds like you like Paula.
I liked her. She was good to me. I
Oh,
don't know. I
she
don't
was
remember.
the most
I don't remember her doing anything
disgusting,
bad to me.
Venomous
She
bastard
She-
bitch that lived.
she cleaned for me. She cooked for me. I mean, I don't. Why is it?
Is it possible that there's some resentment that she took over for your mother?
Absolutely not. I
Yes.
prayed day and night, but not her. I prayed day and night he'd find somebody nice. He deserved another life. He was only 50 years old. Why not? And take the burden off me, to be honest with you. Because I was the guilty kind. We wanted to go to Florida. Never went. Is she gorgeous?
I get a
Never went to Florida because
kiss.
You can say it on camera.
Yeah. What's your name?
Julie.
Who are you? What am I to you? What am I? Who am I?
Grandpa Ab.
That's right. I'm your
See?
grandpa. Who loves you, right? Did I buy you presents?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did I buy you today?
Nothing.
Nothing. I bought you presents today. Did I give you
She said
presents?
No.
I didn't give you anything.
What he's doing?
Well,
I'm taking a picture.
we're taking pictures. Can we?
See?
Can we just?
Go back to the bungalow. I'll be right there. We'll be right there.
I will
Because
hide
we,
you.
because we have to go. We have
Yeah.
to go to.
hey, you gotta go eat.
Yeah. Let me just ask you one or two more questions.
Okay, go ahead.
You once said you would never trade your childhood in for anything. Your upbringing. Is that how you feel too?
No.
How, what do you mean by that?
No, I don't see anything great about my childhood. I wasn't a happy camper.
It was difficult because
No, just in general. I was fat. I was unhappy when I was fat. And there was nothing just great about anything. The life in the house wasn't a happy one. She sees it one way, I saw it another. My father was a very hard taskmaster in the house. Hard. Mean. He was. See, I relate to how he treated my mother. He didn't see it, perhaps.
What-
And he was
Sure.
not to blame.
Yeah, I think. listen,
He was mean. And
we're-
my
we're-
mother, he would give her a $15 allowance. And if she needed a buck and a quarter, she could do somersaults. He wouldn't give it. So she was always behind. You don't live. You live a life, a together life. What do you mean you don't? 1 week you spend this, 1 week you spend that. No, that was an allowance. She was like on a payroll without a raise ever. I despise that
Well,
because I don't live that kind
so
of
you
life.
saw that and you resented your father for treating her that way.
Absolutely.
You were a little young. Maybe there were things that Hennie saw.
No, but I also look at it maybe on a female slant than a man's slant. You can
There
take
isn't a
that.
husband-
I will give an excuse. What?
there isn't a husband or wife that never argued. Of course
Oh,
they
I'm not
argue.
saying argue,
And
but not a life
a lot of
where he
argue-
opens up the door and she got a bang in her heart. I got a bang in my heart in excitement. My husband was here. She said, "Oh God, he's here." There's, hey, you want to play the part?
I didn't see those things. Again, maybe I did see them. I don't remember that. I block out bad, and I remember good because I remember things were great. I don't know. Like
I
said,
used to yell and scream at him. Scream. If Marty and I have 5 cents, it's 2.5 cents a piece we share. You share nothing. My mother didn't have her name on any bank book in the United States of America. That's the way you live a married life? She didn't have 5 cents to call her own. That's
That
not
was
the way.
style in those days. That
Whatever
was
the style, I objected to it. I have had a husband at the time. We had exactly $45. It was Helen Mora and Morton Morton.
Right.
If we had 2 lollipops, it was 1 apiece. If we had 1, we sucked it together. We shared. The word share was missing in a first marriage like that, with such love. It was missing. I didn't like it. If she didn't have an extra 59 cents to give you, she didn't have enough to run the week, to run the food. So if I had a date on Saturday night, and I bought a pair of stockings, and God, it works against you in some ways. I tripped and ripped the stocking. Now I couldn't go out. My mother didn't have 50 cents, not only 59, and the stockings were 59 cents. I have
See, you can sit here, but this is videotaping some very important things, okay?
I have
Don't
things
talk.
that are inbred for the rest of my life.
Sure.
And I'd say to him, oh, please, I have a date. I didn't mean to do it. In Jewish, if da can wachsen her, if hair could grow on this side of the palm, that's how you'll get 59 cents. My mother was crying. We begged him. She said to him, take him around. Why did I have to do that? He had the money. That's it. You can't rip. You can't. That's it. So when I worked, in those years, you gave $5 to a parent. But you earned in those days $14. So you gave 5, 6. You made up an amount. I never gave him a penny. I gave my mother. My mother could go to a movie without having to.
Did she?
Yes.
Is that what she did with the money?
Loved.
Good.
Loved the movies because it was like a fantasy to her. You know, it got you out of yourself. So when I would give her and give, how much did I work? How much did I earn? And what the hell did I need? My business was to give her and buy her and do for her, not him.
My first movie I ever saw, my mother took me, was Eddie Cantor. That's how many years, like 100 years ago. So, and it was a chariot race. And Eddie Cantor, it was a comedy because that's what Eddie Cantor was doing. And I got so scared because the horses are running. I hid underneath the seat. I'll never forget. That was my first
I
movie.
took him to the Wizard of Oz. I was always older, right? So I took him to the Wizard of Oz.
You were 10,
Okay.
maybe 9. Okay. 10, no, 10.
The Tin Man,
Yeah.
he crawled under the thing. I said, oh, I hated him. I was so crazy about the movie. I brought him home with temperature.
I don't remember that, but I
Yes.
do remember that chariot race.
He was so
When we
scared.
grew up, we grew up
was in color,
Coney
too.
Island.
Yes, but I took him, you know.
We grew up in Coney Island, and I was, I think, 3. My first recollection of anything, I think I was 3.5 years old. There was a fire, very bad fire.
Oh,
in Coney
yes,
Island.
Coney Island fire.
Coney Island fire.
It's terrible.
And I remember
Putting you in a carriage.
that we had to evacuate. They told everybody to get out because of the changing of the winds, whatever it is. And then we went to the bay. They were going to bring in boats. They never did evacuate us.
No, they
because
got it under
They got
control.
it under control, but whole sections of Coney Island were.
First of all, he was napping.
And I remember that.
And he was napping, and they were yelling, evacuate, and you could hear the roar of the fire and the dark smoke above you. It was the most horrendous thing I have ever seen.
I remember it.
And I kept ringing the bell because the king was sleeping. And my mother said, as soon as he gets up from his nap.
That's right.
And I said, what do you mean? Go, please. And then the police came, and they made her go. The fire people and the police. And they made her bring the king down. So we had the carriage ready
Come here, come
with
here.
blankets.
Come here.
And we evacuated to the bay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that I remember.
Boy, that was also around you were 10?
Me? No, I was 3.5 years
Oh,
old.
you were 3.5.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
She was.
I cried.
She was like 10,
save
yeah,
him,
10.
bring him down. Then I'd beat the living daylights out of him. Not at 3.5
But
later.
I remember that, in those days you put your bedding outside the window. That's how you aired out your
Sure.
bedding, right? And sparks were flying. I remember.
Wow, you remember? That's probably one of your earliest memories.
Yes.
The first thing I can ever remember.
Was that fire?
Yeah.
It was the
remember my
worst
tonsils coming
experience,
out.
you know, when I see all
That I
these
remember.
fires and things and the
I know, but he
roar,
likes to walk on his
that
own.
was the Coney Island fire.
Remember when